Excuse me.
Yeah.
Are you from here?
Yeah. Well, no.
Okay, enjoy your stay here in Louisville, man.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. One more thing. The best time to come here is Derby.
I've been here for the Derby.
Okay, well, you already know.
I know.
Have a good day.
different than the other one. Got it. It's okay. No, I would check that way. Yeah.
Why is it not working? Let's see. Well, there it might be. I'm trying to troubleshoot. We're having trouble streaming. It's not working. Oh.
Hey Darren, do you want me to just create a new one of these? Do you want me to try to end this and just try to create a new stream, or is that possible?
No, I mean, it's working on everything else. So
I know, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I think it might be just an X issue, which is not great timing, but I don't know.
What?
What's happening. I think it just might be a Twitter issue, which is not
well,
great timing.
we'll just keep going on everything else. So, okay, everybody, we're back with our second edition of our live stream on our social medias, and the second practices are underway, and Louisville's actually on the court right now, about halfway into their practice session, and Wisconsin just made their way into the building, and they actually flew in this morning, and they didn't have to. Nebraska flew in last night, so Wisconsin came in this morning, and much like the Huskers, the Badgers came in very businesslike, different than Louisville.
Yes.
Louisville very.
They were a little bit more bubbly, I would say.
Yeah, personable
and.
Yeah, well, the coaches and we talked to all the coaches and so they coming in. We don't know the Badgers, I guess, quite as well as we know the Cardinals and the Wildcats and even a few of the Huskers as well. So we'll have to get to know them as well. But Louisville and Wisconsin are in the building, and Louisville is practicing, like we said, about halfway done with their practice, and the other two teams have headed, I think, back to the hotel. What do you do? You've been in tournaments, and I've only coached in the high school. I guess coached on the college level, but man, as a coach, I hated this time.
Because you get bored.
It was almost
There's
like
plenty to do. I think this is as close to a playoff or regular season game that you can get. You know, a lot of the preseason games, you have back-to-backs like Fridays, Saturdays. And so this single match is a really great opportunity for them to all get their game day routine down, watch film, get your pregame meal. Excuse me. And I think that each of them are probably going through a really significant scout today and refreshing it tomorrow. And that's really what their time is being taken up with right now.
Yeah. So, and then I'm assuming like training, nutrition.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of them have built in like mindfulness now as well. So a lot of meditation. They all have their pregame meals and their day before meals that they picked out and what the players like. And so there becomes a lot of routine the day before games. And part of this is figuring out what is best for each player too. So they're figuring out their routines.
So, and I'm guessing with, especially at this level, do they call ahead to these hotels and specifically order meals for the nutrition or?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'd actually be really interested to see what differences there are between each programs with like their nutrition, or maybe some coaches are still very old school where it's like you have to have pasta, red sauce, grilled chicken, and some vegetables, right? And then there's others that are like, hey, you get per diem the night before the game, but tomorrow your pregame meal is going to be something specific. So I'm sure that varies from program to program, but they all probably have nutritionists on staff that are directing them on what at least types of food they should be eating.
So if there's any Huskers or Wildcats tuning in right now, and if you got per diem and you're at McDonald's right now, just send us a picture on Instagram, and we promise you won't play tomorrow. So just send us that. No. So it's different but I'm guessing most of their time is pretty scheduled, pretty routine. They're not, or do they have free time where?
I think they all probably have some free time, at least from my programs and where I've been, you've always tried to give an hour or so to go meet up with your families. If your families are here. I don't think many of them have started school yet. If anything, the first day of school is today.
Yep.
And so it's, hey, jump on your Zooms or your classrooms, make sure you're familiar with what you're missing. But I would say for the most part, it's pretty scheduled out. And then each player has their own thing. Some players like to go take a walk around the city, make sure they're not stuck in their hotel rooms. Yeah. Some are like, I just want to sit and watch Netflix, and that's what's going to make me prepared for tomorrow. So I think you can only build in so much of volleyball specific stuff when you're on the road like that and you don't have class. Yeah,
because if you're at home, it's not like you're at the center 12 hours the day before.
Right.
So you got to make it normal as possible. And so as we go in, we talked about this for the first session, but the cool thing about this event is, and these programs, they all have, and specifically a few of them have very, very specific goals of being back here right before Christmas. And so if they expect to have some of these dreams and these visions that we have up on the screen, they better get things right throughout the season. If they want to end up back here doing some of these things that the Longhorns have done the last couple of years, they're going to end up right back in this same city, in this same arena in just a few months, because Louisville is the mecca of NCAA volleyball here in 2024. And I think it's awesome what the AVCA has lined up with this event, that you're starting and you're ending the year right back in the same city.
Yeah, the road to Louisville begins tomorrow. I think for all four of these teams, that's always the goal, is get to the Final Four. And so there's no better place to start than where you hope to end.
Yeah, and with coming here and the NCAA, they talked about, our media director has, for this event, has told us that the 3 tournament officials for the NCAA are here, and they are using this as a dress rehearsal. That's why they couldn't come and talk to us, because they are using this as a dress rehearsal for practice day. So they are taking notes. They are walking through it. They literally have their game faces on for what's going to happen in December. They are treating this exactly like the Final Four. They are taking notes as the teams are. And like I kind of joked last night on our live shows, I bet that a few of the fan bases are taking notes that, hey, when we're back here in December, let's eat at this place the first night. And, let's not stay here. Let's make our reservations here when we come back. But no, Louisville is a little hidden gem, especially for foodies.
It's really good.
Yeah.
There's some good food.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
I know. We were talking to Daniel in between, and he's like, I need to go eat. I'm like, don't say that. I'm like mentally blocking it out. But
there's plenty of barbecue to go around.
Oh, yeah, there's great places to eat. And I did not do a great job last night. So tonight I make up for that. But so we are back. And I loved what Jamie said to us, Jamie Gordon, the director of this whole thing. He talked about the viewer experience last night. So if you can go back and watch the beginning of our early show on our YouTube, the recording is on there. Go and watch the first 5 minutes because Jamie talks about the viewer experience tomorrow night. 5 announcers, the video experience, the entertainment experience that will go into both matches. And I think it's something you're going to want to check out, not to mention 4 top 10 ranked volleyball programs going at it to kick off the first college volleyball since last December.
Yeah, I think the volleyball games are going to speak for themselves, but what the arena and the AVCA is doing to make it exceptional is what's going to stand out to not just the people who are here in attendance, but also watching from home. They'll see a little bit faster play or pace in between points, in between sets. The challenges will be faster. Like the video boards are all going to be different than what we've seen in the past in some NCAA matches. And so it's really cool to kind of see how the in-game experience has progressed over the last few years. And I'm excited to watch them play.
Yeah, and it's a professional arena here, so it has the feel of a Final Four in a bigger arena.
Yeah, I noticed they just going out on the practice floor. Jamie had mentioned the LED lights earlier, and I kind of understood what he was saying, but I didn't realize he actually meant that there's LED screens around the entire floor except for one side. And I think visually on TV, that stands out a lot. It makes it look a little bit more professional is the right word to say. And so I don't know, the arena looks great. Like I'm ready for it to be tomorrow already.
Somebody with the ADHD like that caught my eye early when I walked out there before as we were setting up. Like I was checking everything out. A lot of screens. Yeah, there are. But it's a viewer experience. But I liked how they thought about the TV viewers and the people here, and they are really trying to make it. They're trying to make it like what they hope college matches of the future are like, that entertainment experience of the future, because the AVCA, the NCAA are really talking about what they need to grow this game in the future.
Yeah, I think tomorrow is about making a memorable experience that people want to return to in December. Right. So having people leave this arena going, wow, I've never experienced anything like that. I'm going to go buy my tickets for the Final Four because it's the next opportunity. I mean, Louisville is hosting, I think, 7 matches at the YUM Center this fall. So there's plenty of opportunity for the Louisville community to get out there, but it's not going to be the same production as we see tomorrow. And so like you said, this is what we want the sport to look like in every arena, in every conference. And so how can we slowly get to that?
Right. And I know there's probably coaches at programs like right away, the instinct is like, we can't afford that. We can't, right. But it's growing to that.
Yeah.
And there's programs out there with the foresight, like a Nebraska, we always start with the usual suspects that are going to have the foresight to say, we can do this, or we can start with this, and it's going to give us a leg up, right? Or it's an advantage, or it makes it a better experience for our fans or for TV. And that's how you start to move it forward. And then to keep up with the Joneses, another program follows it, and it's exactly how progress happens.
Effect, for sure. It started a few years ago with getting any sort of challenge system in, and everybody, there was DV Sport, there was all of these other at UAB, we set up iPads around the gym, and there was a program that we could use that way. But it really became a thing where if you wanted to host an NCAA match, you had to have the challenge system. And so that forced every school that even thought about being the host to put that in their gyms. And then this year we saw Bolt 6 with FIVB. We had it in some professional matches, and then all of a sudden, okay, now we see the Big Ten and the SEC getting their line judges removed and getting these camera systems in. So it definitely is keeping up with the Joneses, but in the best way possible.
Well, and let's just talk about the whole attendance thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Wisconsin,
I can do this record. Well, no, I'm going to do the record.
Yeah, well, Creighton,
Yeah.
Creighton, Nebraska got an idea. Let's have it in the big pro stadium. Okay, great. Well, then, by the way, Wisconsin said, hey, we have a bigger stadium than that. Well, what does a rival do? John Cook says, let's have it in a football stadium. Well, okay, that's how progress happens, and it comes from rivalries and competition, and that makes everybody better. And then somebody says, well, hey, we might not be able to have it in a football stadium, but how can we improve our best?
Right.
And next thing you know, you have 25 programs setting their own stadium. And oh, by the way, now there's some high schools in Ohio that are going to try and have their own outdoor game.
I think a couple places did have one. I think Iowa, somewhere in Iowa, somewhere in Michigan had it, because I saw the Grand Rapids Rise were out there supporting them. And it just, the growth is unstoppable right now. And so it's really cool to see it trickle down from professional to college to high school. And it's just fun.
But it takes pioneers like what the AVCA is trying to do with this to do it. So it's cool. Tune in. If you're not going to be here, we are lucky enough to be here, and it's going to be amazing. So,
Darren, I have a question for you actually, because I thought about this earlier. You're a football guy, so you probably remember a little bit more than me. But every opening weekend now, these big football schools are scheduling games against other big football schools. And I don't always remember it being like that. I went to Alabama, so I paid a little bit of attention to football, but now it is almost a badge of honor of, hey, Alabama is going to take on Texas, or Alabama is going to USC. And I feel like these games tomorrow is the closest as like an opening kickoff, big hoopla that you can put together.
Right. And that's why I asked Meredith. I said, hey, some teams in the SEC don't schedule the way
for sure, but
and so what happened was, Alabama kind of led the way with that in football, and again, exactly what you saw with the rivalry or the attendance record, that happened in college football.
Yeah.
And because, hey, they found money in it.
Yeah.
Right? That's
money talks.
Let's not lie. That's how most things happen in college sports. But the elite did it because of recruiting and because of money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then, but I, good or bad, have been a Minnesota football fan my whole life, right? Mm-hmm. So Minnesota did it 10 or 11 years ago. They started playing on the first Thursday because they wanted a primetime game. So their gimmick game was to host a Thursday night game. It was one of the first games ever. Mm-hmm. But that was their only way to get a primetime nationally televised. Now, they didn't play Alabama.
Yeah.
They played a cupcake, but they got a cupcake game on national TV.
Yeah.
Now people have moved around it. It's not the same thing. So they had to start scheduling a better team to be. So everybody has their own niche. And those fringe teams you still see in football don't schedule because they have to have so many wins to be bowl eligible. Yeah. And I think that's what you see as I'm learning volleyball. I don't understand the whole PowerPoint system like you do. I'm trying to learn.
It's broken anyway.
Right. But now I think, correct me if I'm wrong, what you have is you have those fringe teams that, like a Louisville. Mm-hmm. When I talked to Danny, she's like, hey, we have to schedule as hard as possible because we have to host we want to host.
We need this many top 25 wins
Right.
so that we can host. And yeah, it's
and
a formula.
Right. And I know I believe, not to speak for Craig, but I think that's what he is doing. Right. But then you have, I won't name schools, but then you have other schools that purposely don't schedule these games because
They need
they
to
want
get 20 wins to be
Right.
eligible for the tournament or something like that.
Right.
Definitely it is.
and
a
they want to
school.
go 30-2,
Yeah.
thinking their 30 wins will make them look better for the
Mhm.
tournament, right? And so you have it both ways, but I love these. And I do know from rumors next year there's going to be a lot more opening weekend. Now, from what I understand, AVCA is grandfathered in now to this
Okay.
opening week. They are guaranteed this the month. That's why this is on a Tuesday. And now what we're going to see this coming weekend, like the Thursday, Friday, now what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot more invites.
Yeah.
So like the Puerto Rico Classic, like basketball does,
Mhm.
right?
Like
Where,
the Thanksgiving and the
Yes.
Christmas tournaments.
like
yeah.
where they go and get two
Yeah.
matches. Because we even looked at doing one in Sioux Falls. We have the Pentagon, which is an amazing facility. And so we had looked at inviting some teams in to Sioux Falls for a doubleheader, a 2-match. And I know there's going to be some classics coming up where you invite teams to come in for a guaranteed 2. I'm trying to learn what everybody needs, what their guarantees are. But so that's what you're going to see is.
No, it's
That's
just
what
a
I've
lot
learned.
of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So next year is Tampa, the Final Four again?
Oh, is it? Now, I disagree. I thought it was Midwest again. Somebody will chime in. I will find that out by tomorrow.
I was going to ask your way too early invite to the AVCA showcase next year. But I think it depends on the host city.
I'm gonna go sell
we
some more
gotta-
cookie dough to afford you. That's what ABC. Oh, yeah. And Jamie did say that this was really lucky. It won't always be that this works, but they will always. Zach said Kansas City, and that's what I thought.
Kansas City,
And hey,
more
I am-
barbecue.
I am great with Kansas City. That's one of my favorite sports towns. But we'll have more on that tomorrow because I can drive. I love Kansas City because that's drivable for me, and I love that facility as well. But yes, you can come. You can come next year. Is that as appealing as Tampa?
No, Tampa was great. It
You're-
was warm. It was
It-
a little rainy.
Next August, it'll be like 125 in Tampa.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Tampa was December. All right, I'll take
All right.
Kansas City.
Let's move on and
Move
let's
on.
talk about the number 3 ranked Badgers. You want to talk about a team I think that's on a mission. And another team that maybe more questions than solid. I don't see how they can be. I think they have a lot back, but go ahead and break down Coach Sheffield's roster for us.
Yeah, I think they have a lot back, but they definitely lost some key positions, and there's some rumors of injuries, and so we
Oh.
don't know who might fill in certain positions. But
Okay.
I think a big question mark is who plays middle versus who plays right side, and that is all going to stem from whether or not they run a 6-2 or a 5-1. If they're in the 5-1 and they decide to go with Charlie, who is going to, step in as a freshman and run the offense, you have a little bit of a logjam in the middle there. And so do you go with, Smrek on the right and then Robinson in the middle and Crawford and missing one more? Oh, Carter Booth, who is up on the screen there also. And so who do you decide goes to the middle with that? If you're in a 6-2, it's easy. Robinson is an opposite. She's great over there. She's proved that. But I think she's too lethal as an offense to leave her out of the middle if they are in a 5-1. So that's kind of like the first question mark.
Yeah. And then is that something that you experiment? I have a ton of questions just on the philosophy when you decide that, because this is what I love about volleyball
Mhm.
is these guys, their schedules are so top heavy And then these guys go into the Big Ten. So when do you ever, amen for how volleyball does it compared to basketball?
It's like, when do you get a break?
Yeah, there are no cupcakes.
No.
Right? Like, when do you have that downtime to say, okay, we don't have a Division II school to be like, now we're going to mess
give
around.
her a shot. We're going to see what it can
Yeah.
look like. Yeah. I think, and this is one of the unfortunate things about being a fall sport that doesn't have summer access like
Right.
the footballs and the basketballs do, is you only have 2.5 weeks to make
Yeah.
a decision about your lineup. And so I think they rely on exhibition games now, your scrimmages, your statting at practice.
Right.
You're trying to collect as much data as you can about each attacker off of each setter. But one of the great things with Wisconsin's roster is the depth that they have in that position, where they can say, hey, we're riding out or we're rolling out a 5-1, but if we're in a jam, we can go to a 6-2. We have a setter on there. We have, a middle that has played opposite before and can get some production if they get stuck in a rotation. So my guess is that they go with the 5-1. I think it's iffy because Charlie is a freshman, but I think that she has the experience and she has the chutzpah, I'll say, to go out there and lead the team.
Okay, now you're ruining all our questions that are coming up, but let's talk about some of those new faces, because we're going to say Charlie a lot in the next little bit, but just another one of those teams. We talked about Nebraska, Texas, and then it should have been Wisconsin right there. I think they're maybe just a little bit with last year's class, but this year's class is loaded. They definitely, if they needed to redeem themselves, their 26 class is amazing. We got to talk to them. Yesterday, and a couple of my favorite outsides in the entire class of 2026. But so Charlie Gerbringer, a ton of USA volleyball experience, another Under Armour All-American who did great things. But I want, from what I know about this Wisconsin staff and the way coaches and his demeanor, Lola Schumacher, you want to talk about a fit.
She's a spitfire.
Yeah, and a half.
Yeah.
This girl.
Yeah, she's amazing. I have had the privilege of having Lola at my camps before. I was recruiting her at USC. I loved her personality on and off the court. Family was great. But when she told us she was going to Wisconsin, I was like, well, duh. Like, yeah. It makes sense, with
that Muncie connection. Yeah.
That gritty defense that I'm not going to let anyone score on us. And it's funny, I'm jumping around a little bit, but all 4 of the teams this weekend kind of play with that little bit of grit and defense. There's some similarities there. And so I think we're going to see some long rallies. But anyway.
Yeah, and I want to talk about when we get to Louisville. I wanted to talk on that first match. The point that I didn't get to ask you was the Tuzzo and Bevins backcourt versus Rodriguez, right? And I know the whole talk. I know Nebraska, and I know the credit those guys get, and it's justified. But I mean, I thought Tuzzo last year did not get near enough recognition for what she did, and Eleanor again.
Eleanor is one of the top liberos in the country. She's up there with, we'll see Elena Scott tomorrow and Lexi, and right. I think those 3 are certainly up there at the top of the list of holding down their defense, passing great numbers, and Eleanor. It's what you said about Kentucky the whole day.
So do you see what I mean?
I'm not
just
Kentucky
making this
for some
up.
Reason.
There isn't that much separation, is it?
No,
I'm not totally crazy for saying there's not that much difference between those 2 backcourts.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. And that's also another Muncie, Indiana tie.
Yes.
Okay. So now we'll transition it back to this Muncie, Indiana tie.
Yeah.
To Lola, who is a perfect fit for Kelly, a coach with Wisconsin, but she's coming in as a freshman as well.
Yeah.
But I have no, do you have any concerns about her stepping in?
If I had a concern, it's a compliment. It's that she's going to be so fired up
Yeah.
she just maybe misses every once in a while.
Okay. And this, so I saw her, I went and did the Under Armour Select Camp Tour. And she had just gotten done playing in the All-American game. She was on her way to Wisconsin. And they did the one in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
So it's close to her hometown. And she just like loves being around those events so much. She just showed up and walked around and coached kids who are like 3 months younger than her, probably.
She's not lacking personality.
No. And I was like, that's what I want. Like, can I draft that kid? Can I hire that kid right now? And she just had to be around it.
Yeah. And I think one thing that will get maybe overlooked because she's always started is I think she's also a really great teammate.
Yes.
And she's going to be somebody that's going to make their gym better simply from existing in that gym.
Yes.
She's going to play harder. She's going to dig more balls. She's going to, push Sage and Gigi, who are both competing for the libero position at Wisconsin. And it'll be interesting. I think they did the 2 libero system in their exhibition or their scrimmage. So I don't know what they're going to roll on the floor tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, like in a good way, she might just be like that little gnat or mosquito, like get away, and she just never will. The best.
That's a great way of saying it. Yeah.
That was like, and okay, and so then when we talk about athletes, this Shad Sarah's. But all she did was almost make the Canadian Olympic team, but not as a volleyball player, mind you, as triple and long jumper. So there you go. And also as a decent volleyball player, right? So you have her, which I don't think will factor into the mix this year because of their depth at the attacker's position. But that just talks to you about the athletes that they're bringing in. But again, Charlie is the one that's going to get the talk.
She'll be the one that sees the most floor time,
right,
for sure. But this class and their class after them, I mean, it's very clear what Coach Sheffield's focus was in bringing in not just size, which I think that he has had historically, but also athleticism to go along with that size. So I think we're just going to see them get faster, stronger, and keep getting more kills.
And what they have coming with this year's class, again, it's more of the same. And I talked to the 26s last night, and they're like, we're going to Wisconsin. There will be competition. But you see a certain type of athlete, like energy. We talked about Andy Jackson, right? And energy givers, they're upbeat. They're right. You see a certain type of kid, right? And they have that, well, like we just talked about, right? They're upbeat. They have that energy, but they can all jump out of the gym. And I guess in volleyball, that's not a bad thing. Let's move on to the storylines for Wisconsin. And you talked a little bit about health. Let's talk about Sarah Franklin, who is the defending Big Ten and National Player of the Year.
Yes.
Does she replicate what she did last year? Is that possible? Okay.
I think she can. I think at times last year, one of the hurdles for Wisconsin was their ball control and finding some rhythm from that setter position, which is going to happen sometimes when you have a 6-2. But I think what Sarah did last year was because of who Sarah is. And so she doesn't need a certain party around her for her to be able to do that. She's going to create her opportunities. She's going to create her moments, and she's going to capitalize on them when she has them. Her game has only gotten better. The last few years, we've seen her really step into the role as a 6 rotation player, be able to pass and attack. And I mean, if you watched any bit of what she did with USA Volleyball this summer at international competition, it's very clear that she is on a mission to be the player of the year and to win a national championship and really to kind of start her next step at whatever team life holds for her after volleyball, wherever she goes.
We put the setter.
Put Charlie on there
Right.
again.
Because she may have something to do with how they play. I had asked this when we interviewed Nebraska about Bergen, because I was referring to Charlie. I've already asked you this question, so I know what the answer will be, but it's tough to come into an elite program on an elite stage and perform like Bergen did last year. Does Charlie have that? And go ahead and tell the people what you told me.
Yeah, I think Charlie is made for this moment. You know, she has an extremely supportive and volleyball-driven family and her parents. She's been part of her mom's club since she was little, and I think this has been Charlie's dream. And so she has trained and prepared herself for this. And I think she's stepping into a coaching staff who has experience with freshman setters. They've developed them. It was very clear, not very clear, but I think part of the recruiting piece to Charlie was you're going to have an opportunity to step in here with a pretty veteran team and be able to take the reins. And I think she's ready for it.
And you had heard what, Coach had talked about Bergen. What similarities, Charlie much better than I do. You'd heard what they talked about made Bergen successful.
Mm-hmm.
Is that similar to Charlie? Is she different? What?
I think there are some similarities there. Charlie, I feel like you can never really tell what she's thinking. And I think that's a positive, especially when you are a freshman and there's, all this attention and lights being put on you. Maybe it's good to know what's not going through your head, and your teammates might not know, but there's always this sense of, I can do it. I have this confidence. We're going to get it done. And she might be different in Bergen. And, you talked about Bergen has that look. I don't know if Charlie has a look, but everyone knows she wants to win. And she's always putting her best competitive foot forward. And so I think the similarities are they trust themselves and they've been in the position enough times to know how to respond in the tough moments.
So I just put Coach up there because it just seems like
we love a picture of Coach.
I do. I just kind of left this bottom corner just open, I guess. But it seems like he has, obviously a lot of talent and a lot of pieces, but it seems like there's things that need to be moved around, unanswered questions, that there's some chess to be played,
mm-hmm.
And some coaching to be done, that he has some work to do.
He has some really fun, difficult decisions to make.
Right.
I think that's the key. One of the question marks is, will Orzel transition back to the outside? Will she stay at libero? I can't see her staying at libero because I think the pin depth or the outside depth specifically is an area where we're going to have to find the question to that, who can to fill in that role for what Temi did last year for them. And Julia, of course, has experience doing it. And so I imagine that that's where she starts. But it's more of a question of, can her and Sarah stay healthy all year and kind of hold down that outside hitter position?
And you need depth. I don't care how dominant of a year. We didn't touch on it with delay a little bit, but I don't care how good you are. You need depth. You
need to give them a break every
Yeah.
once in a while,
Yeah.
whether it's, hey, you're just not playing back row this game because we're going to take your load off, or we're playing the last team in the conference and we feel pretty confident that so-and-so can go in and step in for you. I think the more scientific data we continue to get about load management, the more we're going to see coaches utilize it, especially because they all have the technology now. So I think the depth is needed.
All right, so let's go on to the questions for the Badgers. We've talked about this, but how good is Charlie right away?
I think she's good. I'm not going to say she's great yet because I want to see how she responds. I think her USA volleyball this summer was really uplifting if you're a Wisconsin fan or the staff and watching her needing and trying to make some decisions early. I thought she stepped into that role and did a great job. But I think that with the other, there's that Nat,
Yeah.
Lola.
Hey, Lola, get out of here.
Like, get out of
Leave
here.
us alone.
But I think with some of the other question marks surrounding the offense, it might take her a minute to get really settled in.
Maybe a better question is how good do they need her to be?
That's a tough one. I would say I think they just need her to be good because they have so many arms. I think they can get away with her being good and not being great yet.
Okay.
She needs to be great to win a national championship.
Okay. Can they defend with the best teams in the country?
Yes, their size is what separates them from, I would say, pretty much every team in the country. They're so physical at the net. They have great defense. Defense is not the hurdle that they're facing this year.
Okay. Do they have enough offensive weapons to win the big matches like we're talking about?
That's going to be the question. I think they do. I think they need some production from that L2 position, which we'll see who steps in for that and if it's improved. But I think that they have enough arms.
Okay. And then the second setter we talked about.
That's Ellie.
Yeah. Do you know that Ellie,
Yes.
do we need to talk about your one trip to the SummerSlam?
No, we talked about
All right.
last year.
Okay. Do they have a second setter? You talked about possibly 6'2", 5'1". What is it? Do they have that second setter to run that? What is the decision on that or not?
I think they do because they have the arms to do it. And so kind of what I was mentioning earlier, like you don't need to be exceptional when you have that many arms surrounding you. You just have to kind of know the offensive plan against your opponent and figure out how to pick them apart, which that's what coaches are for.
That's what
Speaking
coaches
of
are
coaches.
for. Speaking of coaches, we're going to come back and finish our questions, our fan questions for the Badgers, but we have some of the host team, Louisville Cardinals. They're just coming off the court, and so we are going to go. Do you guys want to go together or separate? Ellie? Yeah. All right. We're going to bring in one of their setters or one of their players, excuse me. And Ellie, come on, Ellie.
Okay, you're the star. Oh gosh. Okay.
Ellie is the star.
Oh,
So
my goodness,
this
thank
is Ellie Block. And Ellie's got a little connection to just about everybody in this little get together, don't you?
Yeah, just a little.
You know that. So Ellie, well, literally almost everybody.
Yeah.
Coach, I forgot about the USC
Yeah.
ties too. So Ellie are you a senior now? Junior.
I'm a redshirt junior. Yep.
Redshirt junior. All right. So Ellie is from Wahoo,
Yep.
Nebraska,
Yep.
right? And so all of Husker Nation
Yep.
will remember you.
Yep. Maybe.
Oh no baby. Those Husker fans do not forget that
That is
stuff.
true. They know their volleyball.
They know their volleyball, and you know who else they will know.
Is Lauren Bankston on our team?
Well, I was gonna say your
And
dad.
Danny. Well, okay. My dad, yeah.
Well, you know they all remember your dad
Yeah.
from like 80 years ago. Well, and Danny. Yeah, they probably do know Danny. Well, they probably know Dan too from back in the day. But so talk to us about the off season and the focus. We asked PK if y'all have like a saying or a motto after last year, because to be honest, like take us inside the locker room after that tough hit loss in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I mean, obviously super emotional, not exactly what we wanted from it. So it was, super emotional as a team that works so hard, and we are in the position that we want to be in, and it just doesn't turn out, and that happens in sports. So it's obviously super emotional, but we just came together as a team and we use that as motivation for the off season, as you said. And last year we had a lot of third set losses, which was a big thing. So we got reverse swept by Pitt twice and Stanford. So we would win those first 2 sets, and then somewhere in the third set it would change.
Right.
So in the off season, our mindset was to win those third sets, and just focusing on finishing the game was our big thing.
Right. And so that's what we at SBK, like, do you guys have a motto, or do you have a slogan, or do you talk about that? Or is it just like, do you try and block it out? I got to believe you can't, but.
You can. I mean, it's definitely in the back of our minds. We don't have a saying, I guess, but it's always constantly in the back of our minds. And as a team, we always know that's in the back of our minds, and that's our motivator, and that's what pushes us ahead. Okay,
so let me ask quick, or give it to Coach. How do you make that not a negative where it wears you down, but a positive that it pushes you over that this year?
Yeah, so I mean, at first, obviously, after the game, it can be a negative. It's a huge negative.
Yeah.
And you feel that for probably months after that. But once you get in the gym the next time, it has to be off your mind, and it has to be a motivator, or we're not going to get better. Things aren't going to be more positive, and they're not going to move ahead. So once we step back in the gym in January, the switch went.
You mentioned like the biggest change that you guys need is just mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't lose a lot of people from last year, which is amazing. So can you pinpoint a specific thing that maybe you guys did as a team this spring, or that the coaches had you guys do to help you get over whatever that mental hurdle that you think was?
Yeah, so a lot of times, even we did this a little bit in the fall, we would get to 20 or get to 23, and we had to finish those last 2 points. So I think drills like that, and just drills, maybe we were beating the other team 20-15. They would raise that score up 20-20. So we constantly have to finish those games and finish those matches. And they just kept talking to us like we have to treat each point like it's 20-20, or it's 23-20. So we have to treat everything like it's 20.
Everything's harder for you guys in practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
How does it feel to be hosting the first game, which also I'm sure is the goal for you guys to be in the last game?
Right. It's super special. I mean, all of us will talk about it like it's such a dream come true for all of us, and just from younger players watching this big tournament and getting to play in it is so special, and we're all just really trying to enjoy the moment and just have fun. And yeah, I think we're ready and we're prepared, and yeah, we're gonna go after it.
How do you do that? Because enjoy the moment is everybody always says that, right? And the more eyes that get on you guys in the sport in general, the more, feedback and noise and everything happens. And so, you specifically, how do you stay in that moment? And then is there something, I guess Darren kind of asked a little bit like a team motto, but is there just a rule that you guys have in place to hey, we're always about now?
Yeah, so it definitely is hard when you talk about social media and all that stuff. It's hard for your mind to wander. It's hard for our mind to wander to the next game that we play or whatever. But I just really look to my teammates, I think, is the biggest thing. And we try to have fun every practice and see each other's smiles every day, and realize we're exactly where we want to be. We don't want to be anywhere else. So I'm just really getting that feedback from my teammates and just enjoying it.
Besides your game tomorrow, who are you most looking forward to playing this year?
That's a great question. We have so many good games that I'm ready for, but I would say Nebraska or Creighton, just because I'm from there and get to see a lot of my old club teammates or high school teammates. So yeah, I would say those two.
Not the rivalry.
That one is always two.
She already knows they got that one in the bag.
That one's
so.
every year.
All right. Well, you're right. You do have a lot of good matches for you on the calendar. What do you think, looking back to even when you were in high school and the explosion of volleyball to think about this event? And I know you guys are supposed to lock in and go play like it's any other game, right? But ESPN being here and even this dorky little thing, right? But think about how big it's getting. And when you were a freshman in high school, this wasn't this.
Right. No, it wasn't this at all. And fortunately, in Nebraska, volleyball things, get treated,
Sure.
Just as big as everything else. So I was lucky to get to see that, but just to see it across the country is incredible, and I couldn't ask for anything more. So it's really special to be a part of that, and I'm excited to watch it continue to grow. So,
when you guys, I hate asking boring questions, so I just okay. Do you guys ever feel like we were talking before? We talked about Nebraska, and everybody talks about Nebraska and how they have all these people coming back, and they're going to be so they're so hurt after they lost the national championship game. And I'm like, well, Louisville felt the same way, right? Like everybody talks about them,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
you guys ever be like, what about us?
I mean,
Talk about us.
the thing is, everyone after the season feels like that, no matter
Right.
if you're in the national championship match or not. It's, you work so hard to get to whatever position you're in, and for every team, except for the national winners, they, have the season they want. So, I think every team felt it. So we're just kind of understanding that, and every team has great players back.
Yeah.
This entire collegiate country is going to be in this year. So everyone's getting everyone back. So it's going to be a great year. Yeah.
Well, just think about like your seniors. Anna DeBeer, I'm guessing she probably wasn't like ecstatic after you guys lost. I'm thinking she might want to win, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We all have that.
Yeah, right. So there's exactly, and then is there extra pressure that's here, or are you guys just like we deserve to be there? Or
We've talked about this a little. Just honestly, our first dinner at Danny's as a team, there is a little bit of pressure, but I think we're really using that positively and talking about it openly, because that's okay.
Yeah.
There is pressure
Yeah.
with this, but we're turning it into a positive thing and making it our motivation and making it more of a point to be here. And we obviously want to be here. So we're excited.
all right, and then last thing I have, and I'll get back to Coach. Your guys' new men's basketball coach. Has he sold you any used cars yet?
No.
Oh well, I think he might be the best used car salesman. Don't you think?
Oh yeah.
He could sell anybody anything. I think. Don't
Oh
you?
yeah. He came to talk to us today. Did you know that?
Are you that guy?
He
he could-
pumps you up.
Yeah, I know.
Pumps
He
you
could
up.
sell you anything.
Yes.
That guy.
Yeah, he's awesome. I'm so excited for what he has.
I'm ready.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I've never cheered for Louisville basketball ever, but I'm ready to jump on board.
Yeah, I know.
He seems
Me too.
like I
yeah,
know.
he's the real deal. He's awesome.
He
He
I
should be a
know.
motivational speaker for him.
I bet he does some. I'm
Yes.
just gonna guess he gets paid. Yeah,
He's awesome.
yeah, he seems like it. Like you want to talk about breathing life back into a program, he seems like it. So you got to go it all going in the bill. But they family going to be up here for the matches.
Yeah, my mom's coming down. My grandma and grandpa are coming down. So yeah, I'm excited.
It will be. And to have Nebraska here, I bet, is
Yes.
just extra cool. Although that's all I have for. I do want to wish you luck. It's cool.
Thank you.
And we did, everybody that is here. Ellie was the setter on a Wahoo team. How many games did you guys lose that state championship year?
None.
Yeah, they didn't win any, but they did not win SummerSlam in little old Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Well, that might have been my freshman year.
Yeah, but you won the state championship in Nebraska that year.
Well, we won 3 times. I won 3 times.
Oh,
so I
three.
wasn't sure which year you were.
Okay,
referring
well, you didn't come back. We couldn't get you back for some reason to
Still didn't
SummerSlam.
like to lose.
I know there were some hurt feelings. We couldn't get them back because they lost in South Dakota. And
Oh, that's funny.
I mean,
Yep. I guess we didn't want to lose again.
well, that's.
You have
don't
to
come-
talk to Trisha Larson.
I know, but I've been trying to email her for years, but I'm just kidding. So we have no Ellie for a long, long time, and her dad for even longer. So it's really cool what a small volleyball world that now we're doing this interview like 7 years later. But best of luck. You have a great year.
Thank
and
you.
Coach, do you have
I got
one more
one
for?
more.
Okay,
Yeah.
let her go.
You've played in a lot of big matches now, and it's been so fun to watch like your game develop and you develop and your leadership skills develop. It's really, really cool. What has been your biggest change? It could be a mental thing, it could be a physical thing, a setting thing. What are you taking from last year that you're going to do different this year?
So I would say my leadership and my defensive mindset. A lot of the off-season I worked on being stopped on defense and just being super calm. Last year I was constantly moving, trying to reposition myself. So this year I'm just working on being stopped, being calm, and going for defense. And then leadership-wise, I'm an upperclassman now, so
You're old.
I know. I'm old. So just really stepping into that role, and as a setter, just really taking that on with the offense and constantly communicating with the hitters, with Elena, everyone. So just stepping into that too.
Love it. Well, we're rooting for you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having
Thanks
me.
for your
I
time.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you're awesome. Good luck tomorrow night.
Have fun.
Thank you.
Fun.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody.
Bye.
That's Ellie Locke, setter for the Cards, and we're gonna bring Coach Meskey in here. Yeah, stay away from
Yeah,
the
don't
cords.
touch
and
it. Louise.
This is what the good side of the.
God.
It's like we got autographs all over the screen.
Oh my gosh.
from We'll
I can't
Never
even
Forget
believe.
You.
So was that live when I knocked the screen over?
Yes.
It was. That's all
I
right.
hope people enjoy
Yeah.
it. My goodness.
Like I said, if anybody knows me, I don't have anything not cracked or scratched.
I'm not a big.
or
I
something.
probably cuss too. I'm not a big I don't cuss very much, and I bet there were a few. So I apologize.
Zach, big Zach, there you see him on the producer back in Arizona. The nephew Zach, you met him. He said, I was lucky. I got it turned down before he's got out of control. So Dan Meskey,
All right,
everybody.
We're back.
So Coach, ask anybody this, but every coach that's come on, but how does it feel after the recruiting and the camp season and all that? How does it feel now to get back on the court, and now you guys are a day away from doing what you really, really love, being in matches?
Yeah, it's almost like surreal, and especially tomorrow. The match is at 9 at night. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing. Is like I'm usually in bed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
9:30. I'm like lights out. So I'm thinking like, man, like it's gonna be wild tomorrow. Being adrenaline pumping, all the people here at YUM. But man, it's just we went on a foreign trip 2 seasons ago, so our season just kind of ran together. You have recruiting season, then we went to Brazil, then we got back into our fall season. We didn't have that this year, so it was like it just felt like a lull this summer of like, man, let's go. Especially, we're 4 years out from that COVID crazy season, but it was like COVID, then it was a quick 2021 season after that. So for some of our players, this was like the first true summer training where they really had time to like work out and get stronger, increase their vertical. So it was a lot of fun, but man, we're chomping at the bit to go. We're ready. So
It's fun when you don't have to play yourselves anymore.
yeah, we're sick of that too. So we're ready to play somebody else. Because that's the thing too is, your offense is based off your defense. Your defense is designed to stop your offense. So it's like at some point you're like, are we any good here? We need to figure this out.
We're all hitting 100.
Exactly. So it's like when something goes good, something else went wrong. So it's like, we got to figure this out. So we're really excited to be playing somebody else.
I think I've asked this question to everyone that's come up here, and so because everyone is trying to get to the Final Fours, and every team that's here, that is the goal. And you were all very close last year. Whatever round it was in, it was close games. And I asked Ellie also, what is the difference, or what is the thing that you said we have to do this better this year, and how did you change it this spring? And you can't say mentality because that was her answer.
I won't say mentality. So she gave you the player answer. I'll give you the coach answer because, from a specific just training standpoint, you looked at not just us, but every big match last year was a passing breakdown, or it was a great server, whichever one you want to look at. It was a great server that took over, or it was a passing breakdown from that team. However you want to process that. But every match from the Elite Eight on seemed to be decided by first contact, which is like we all always go back to that. But for us, it was just we have to be relentless in how we're going to serve, receive. And then we also want to try to have the best servers in the country so that when we play other teams, we're not like, oh wow, look at this serving level that we have to match. So for us, it was, it wasn't back to the basics. We like to say the best never get bored with the basics. We've always been all in on that, but even more so this year, if that's even possible. We were just like, we have to make sure that our passers are seeing the toughest serves that they could possibly be seeing, so that on game day we're never surprised or never adjusting to a level.
Is it more fighting off aces, or do you guys need more perfect pass opportunities?
That's a really good question. I think it's fighting off aces, because the way that the serving's gone in NCAA,
It's crazy.
it's wild. So when people really hit that
I
hybrid
would
in
get
particular,
ace off the court, and I was
me
libero.
too. I was a libero too, but in title only. But it was true top spinners. There were some that really could bring it last year, but then there were people who were hitting those hybrids, and it feels like when those get hit, it's like just dig it like you would dig an attack and just keep it in play. But I do think it's more fighting off aces, because an ace dribbles into just a bad pass and then dribbles into, that's where the serving run goes. So if you can just fight off that ace and give yourself a chance in the rally, I think that's what's really important. It was funny, they had the old stats up during our practice. I think one of the last volleyball matches here was us against Pitt last year, and they had the old stats up there, and we swept that match. And I looked on there, and Pitt had 0 aces, and it was like it seemed to always come down to that first contact. So it was really interesting. I was just noticing that when we were in there.
Yeah, I think you have the arms to swing your way out of trouble too. So if you can not get ace, then
We got
at least
some
give
bombers
yourself
for sure.
An opportunity. Another thing we've been talking about with a lot of the teams is just what questions are there for this year, and we've been talking about lineups or new people, new faces. How do you, in such a short span, when you get 2.5 weeks before your game, how does your staff, if you don't mind sharing, make those decisions when it comes to some tight races in position wars?
Well, I'll give a shout out to our stat guy. I think we have the best stat guy in the country. The portal that we use for our stats is really in depth. So we don't totally rely on statistics, but obviously we're breaking down as much as we can in practice to help with those tighter battles. But this is probably the most competitive gym that we've ever had as far as just depth. But we've always prided ourselves on, role clarity and role acceptance. So making sure that our roles are defined going into the season, and that, even if you're not super jacked about your role, that you've got a high level of role acceptance and embracing whatever we need from you. But as far as how our staff goes about that, it's a balancing act, because, do you value offense, where Danny kind of runs our offense and is trying to get us to hit over 300. I'm running our defense and trying to hold teams under 150. So sometimes in those battles, it's like we're leaning one player that's more offensive for her, but it's more defensive for me. And but as a staff, I think we've always argued really efficiently. And I would use the word like argue. Like, I think that's a strength of our staff, is that we've got a super high level of respect. We've worked together for forever, so we can have some pretty intense conversations about healthy conversation about which direction we want to go with our lineup, which we're pretty excited about.
Can't wait.
Tune in tomorrow.
Well, so talk about that with the matchup right away. And I've been able to talk with you guys for a couple of years now and really get to know your program. To play in a match or matches like this, where years ago you weren't in matches like this. You've had to build every year, and now you expect to win these matches no matter when they are. How important is it? And I know it's a match, but how important is this to play the right way tomorrow in front of a national audience at home? What does it mean?
Well, I mean, for the first match of the year, it's exciting more than it is anything as far as what it means. We've had a saying in our program for a number of years: win or learn. And a lot of times we'd love to be able to win and learn. There was a year where we went undefeated in the regular season, and there were a couple matches we said, man, we're really lucky to be able to win that and learn, because, whether you're winning or losing, you're learning lessons throughout. So I think for us, we've had some great opportunities to showcase Louisville volleyball nationally. This is a really cool one because it's from, a home arena for us that's going to be hosting the Final Four. But for us, it's just about continuing to show the volleyball world how we compete, what we're about. Hopefully our culture kind of comes through the television screen of how our players feel and how they compete and how we communicate, because we love what we're doing here and we enjoy it every step of the way. So tomorrow it's a celebration of, not just this 2 weeks of preseason. It's a celebration of, hard work that all the players that are getting on the court that have given to our program, that they get to showcase for the whole world.
And having two All-Americans that are local kids, what does that mean, A, to them, but to the program that they have that and what they've meant to the program with all the success that they've had?
Yeah, I mean, recruiting is always hard. Like, I've had this conversation. I think me and you maybe had this conversation at one point of like, recruiting's got to be so much better now that you're, in this, you're fighting in this top echelon or whatever. Maybe you can have a different type of recruit you go for, but it's always still competitive. When we were trying to crack the top 25, we were still competing as hard as possible against all these other teams that were trying to crack the top 25. And now when we try to crack the top 10, it's still as hard. So for us, the local talent that really believed in the vision and, had opportunities other places, but said like, hey, I want to play for a top 10 team, and that's not you yet, but I believe in this vision, and I want to be a reason that people look and say, hey, top 10 teams don't just come out of nowhere. You have to work for it. And they really bought into the vision of like, we're the ones that want to, build that. And, for us to have two that were local, I think that they're very different. So with Anna DeBeer, who was local, everything in Assumption, Kiva, she was a little bit bigger name than Elena Scott, who was at Mercy and, PNK. And we obviously switched positions for her. She was a setter in club. It was cool to get kind of the quote unquote under the radar in Elena, and then get kind of, Anna DeBeer, who everybody was trying to get. So to get those two local players that get to represent the city is really, really special. And it's been really cool to see their journey.
And last thing for you, I think because you guys have been together so long, right? And share a brain, if you will. And it built, you and I have talked about this a lot, and I've talked to other coaches. I really respect people that have built something, and Louisville volleyball was around before y'all got here, but it wasn't a top 5 program, right? To build something, what is Louisville volleyball about with Danny at the helm, right? And what do you sell? What is it meant? What is it about?
Yeah, I don't think there's, maybe everybody sells. I don't feel like there's anything to sell, because to me, it's authenticity. We're incredibly authentic, and we fight really hard to be really consistent, just in how we interact with people and how we go about our business. And again, with Danny, like you said, Danny at the helm, kind of modeling that from the top. It goes all the way through to the staff, and then to the players, to the janitors, and everybody who's a part of our program. So for us, again, talking about just maybe culture there, it's authenticity. It's like the relationships are so powerful and they're so strong within our program, and we're really protective of that. So again, getting back to you talking about Danny at the helm, I think she in particular has done such a good job of bringing in athletes that will continue to grow that authenticity, that connection, those relationships. That's the biggest thing. So when we have players that have been gone for 3-4 years and they're still texting the coaches and the players, and still asking to watch film and things like that, like that's when you feel like, man, like that really went well. That really feels good. So yeah, that's been the best part.
Going back to DeBeer and Scott a little bit, do you think they're putting pressure on themselves? Not for
I don't
tomorrow,
know. They're
but
such
just
studs. It's like, I don't know. As I've coached more, I think about myself as a player who wasn't that great, and I always have to step back and be like, these players are so much better than I ever was, and like, so, because a lot of us as coaches are like, oh, when I played, and it's like not even comparable, they've been in such pressure moments, they've been in such, tough situations, they've built so much that for me, it's just, I've only got the coach's lens for them of like, man, they really look calm, they really look ready, because for me, I'd like to think I can empathize with how they feel, but I'm just like, sometimes you take a step back and you go, man, that's a really impressive person who's just so good at what she does. It's really fun to be around that. And I'd like to think we model that as how we do it coaching wise. But for me, again, anytime I go back, like, oh yeah, as a player, I remember being nervous before a match. I'm like, I've never been in a match like they've played. So for them, I'm really impressed in how they've grown, how they've taken all that on, because, you talked about it earlier, Darren, like, we were a team that when we first beat a top 5 team, it felt like an upset. And now if we beat a top 5 team, it doesn't anymore. And it wasn't that we needed a number before our name. It was just, okay, that feeling just kind of shifted. But for our athletes, they've always prepped the same way. They've always gone about it the same way. So I know for them, when we, a couple years ago started to kind of get on the national team, I don't think it felt like upsets for them. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like, they knew and they
They've
were ready
always had
for it.
that swag a little bit.
They always
of,
expected
I
it, you
belong
know?
here, and
Yeah.
this is what I came here to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's awesome. So first game tomorrow. Not a whole lot of new faces, but is there anything we should be looking forward to that's new from your team, whether it's a demeanor or offense or anything?
That's a great question. God, I would say, you know, we've worked so hard for years on digging. You know, like we've been a great defensive team here and there, and we've, you know, attack percentage, we've been in the top 3 a few times in the last few years. But we never felt like it was like, man, we dig up so many shots. It was our block was really good. We had some good touches, and we were, you know, but we weren't digging up the spectacular digs as much. And I think with Elena Scott, who is a great example for younger players of like, oh, I watched her do that. Now I can learn that. I think that's been infectious throughout our program. And within our gym, we feel like we're digging at maybe the highest level we've ever done. So I think as a specific thing to look for tomorrow, I would like to think that that'll showcase of like, man, this team's digging a lot of balls. So I'd like to think our strengths that we've had before of how we run our offense and our presence at the net is also there. But if we can kind of sprinkle in, you know, the little bit of seasoning on what we've been doing is that we're digging a little bit better.
Honestly, can't imagine you that you warm up. So it's gonna be fun to see.
There you go.
Yeah. We'll let you go, bud. And I just think it's a cool way to showcase the state, right? And and what you guys have done here, and you know, I don't think Kentucky as a state gets enough credit for all the great, especially college volleyball that's getting played here. I mean, you guys are doing some great things, and I have been lucky enough to take a lot of it in the last 3 years, and it's going to be cool to have the nation see it and hear and learn more about it. And the YUM Center should be rocking tomorrow, I think.
I love it. We're excited. So Muhammad Ali is one of our most famous people from Louisville. He said Louisville, Kentucky is the greatest city of all time. So I agree with that.
Well, I know that
Cheers to
it's going to be short a couple pounds of food because I am hammering it tonight. I didn't do it justice last night, so it's going to be missing a little food, and we're going to enjoy it. I mean, I just get to be a fan tomorrow, and I have those like butterflies. We were talking about just how excited. I mean, think about all
I'm
the.
trying not to have those because the match is literally like 15 hours.
Yeah, you
away.
gotta wait.
It's so late tomorrow.
No,
Tomorrow's
like I
gonna be
just.
the
How
longest
much
day
coffee
ever.
are you gonna drink
I'm gonna have to
tomorrow?
siphon it. I'm gonna make sure like it's not too much too early.
Yeah, but like we're going,
Yeah.
like we are going full, like slick back hair.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm texting Matt Ulmer, and I'm going to be like, you better be watching, bud. Mesky's putting the heat
We're
on
going
you
the all
for.
black. Yeah, we're sticking with what works. So.
Yeah, I'm texting everybody I know on the East Coast and say, you want to see the ultimate gangster?
We
You should
usually
be out
call it
tomorrow.
Black Friday, so tomorrow it's Black Tuesday. But
Is Danny gonna wear her red jacket? Or
That's
what's
so
she gonna
I don't
do?
know what she's wearing. So what we did, I mean, this was years back. We decided we were going to go everybody all black and just let Danny kind of wear what she wanted to get her to pop. And it's kind of been something we stuck with the last few years and love it. So
I love it.
yeah, it's been a good vibe on the bench. And you'll even see like our new athletic trainer, like assistant athletic trainer, and everybody. So they always get the message like, we don't care what you wear, it's got to be all black though. You know, whatever Louisville you hear, you got all black. We have 2 new freshman managers. We had to buy them black pants because they literally came to college with they had like sweats. That was it. So.
Yeah, and it's not like they're making a lot of cash. They're not getting the NIL, so you got to take care of them. So, well, I appreciate your time, man, and we can't wait. It's gonna be an awesome event.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me. Thanks for the coverage for this. This is great.
Hey, I just said, when the mothership takes us over, you just remember, give me street cred,
There
buddy.
you go.
Now we're pumped to be here, and it's gonna be an amazing night, and we're gonna be back here spending Christmas here too. So
Love it. Come on back.
that's good.
So.
But well, good luck to you guys,
Appreciate
and
you guys.
play your buns off. So.
All right.
All right, Dan
Thanks,
Mesky, everybody, and representing Louisville and their staff. Been together a long time, and they have big dreams and aspirations, and a very talented team. And take care, buddy. And we're gonna get through the rest of our, our mailbag, and we'll whip through Louisville and get you.
Did we do the Kentucky one?
Yeah, I did when you were fraternizing.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So let me see where you're at. Okay, so our Instagram question, we're going right to the Wisconsin. We'll finish them up and hop into Louisville. So here's the question we're going to ask our fans, but we'll start with you. What offense do you think Wisconsin will run most, not tonight, but tomorrow night? 5-1 or
I
6-2?
think they're going to go with a 5-1.
Okay.
I think they're going to put the trust in Charlie, and I think that they believe if they're going to win a national championship, it's in a 5-1, and so they have to let Charlie figure it out from early on.
Okay, so then is that something, if you start in a 5-1, is that something you can switch mid-match or mid-season? I mean, obviously mid-season you can stop, change it, but I got to believe if you do that with a freshman, you're in that for the long haul.
I think it's extremely easy to switch in and out of in game.
Yeah.
And with Wisconsin specifically, they have the depth on the pins to be able to throw someone in that can play opposite. And they have another setter on the roster, and so there's an opportunity for that. It's just picking and choosing your times, but you have so many subs in college that you're not going to really get stuck. And so I think that if they feel stuck or in jam and they need to go to the 6-2, it'll be easy for them to do it.
Okay, so you're going 5-1. Fans, you're going to have a chance after this to vote on our socials. And with that, let's head right into our Cardinal questions. Again, we've talked about this, but we saw a lot of them, and we saw them all practicing just a little bit. And go through some of their key. We didn't even get all of them on here, but some of the key returning suspects for the Cardinals.
They have so many good players; they don't all fit in one graphic. I will start with the outsides, and you have your returners with Charity Looper and DeBeer, who I think will lock down that spot. They're starters tomorrow. There's some depth on the bench if needed, but I think they'll rely on them all season to be the arms that bring them out of trouble.
No, I was just going to say, and ask you to talk about the big transfer.
So Sophia Maldonado Diaz is a transfer from Arizona. She has had some experience on the Mexican national team. And I think what will surprise people tomorrow, which we'll get, I don't know if we're going to go through like the question marks of Louisville, but
yes,
she has the potential to play opposite or outside. And so I think they'll try to work her into the offense in some way.
All right. And then the middles?
The middles, we have PK Kong, of course, who is, not just a great volleyball player, but lights out human being, like big personality, and you just really can't say enough good things about her. I don't even know her personally. This is just all based on what I see on Instagram.
Well, PK just showed up at Louisville. Wasn't even sure she was going to play. All of a sudden they make a Final Four, and then PK just blows up, not, on social, but on literal media. She becomes this media darling her freshman year.
We kind of talked about it with Andy Jackson, but it's the smile. It's the having the joy while you're playing, I think is so infectious and contagious to people that you want to like the picture. You want to watch the stuff block, and then you want to see the celebration. And PK is certainly one that is easy to watch.
So PK's from Sioux Falls, where I'm from, and where Bergen's from. And I don't think she was highly recruited out of high school. And all of a sudden, one day, Dan Meske used to coach at Augustana College in Sioux Falls, Division II, and Danny brought him here to be her assistant. So I think he had some ties there, and he was good friends with PK's high school coach. He also had recruited another gal, Sydney Shetman, who transferred back to South Dakota State. But anyways, PK was not nearly as highly recruited, and one day she just signs with Louisville, and she comes here. And I don't know what they're expecting. I guess you don't mess around at Division I, so it's not like they just are yeah, what the heck? Here you go. But I don't know. She wasn't she had a lot of strength she had to put on, and all of a sudden she gets in the lineup.
Yeah.
And then they make the Final Four.
It makes a difference.
Well, yeah. And then they go to that Final Four, and she's all over everything, TV, and everybody wants to interview her because of that personality.
Yeah.
And she's amazing. But coming here has been so amazing for her, and she's just I mean, she does. She smiles a lot more, and life has been great for her coming to Louisville. I just am so happy for the kid because I've known her for like 10 years. And yeah, she's amazing. So it's been off the court has been so great being here from her, for her. And yeah, she gives us a hug and it's just PK. So yeah, I mean, I don't care what she ever does in volleyball. I'll love her, but yeah, she's just South Dakotans making a difference here on the big time level.
Yeah, the South Dakota to Louisville pipeline. So
well, yeah, and then you got Sam Untied, who's Libero DS, who played for Kairos. She was right across the border, but there's a ton of Kairos kids. There's I think there's 4 Kairos club players, Bergen and PK and Untied, that are in this thing too. So watch out, we're taking over.
yeah, you're expanding in South Dakota. It's all because of BB Adrenaline.
No, none of those guys claim us at all. But there's a lot more talent coming because of Kairos than used to be. So, and I mean, they're all working out pretty well.
I think they're all doing just fine. Yeah, they're all making a name for themselves, and even Untied, I think, will get playing time.
That kid, watch out! Yeah,
she's going to be a
I
stud,
love Sam
so.
too, and
She's
look
got
at
some
her.
big shoes to fill with Elena Scott up on the screen over there, but.
Yeah, and they got about 6 of them that are going to be competing for that. But anyways, how about Kara Cressy?
Yeah, Kara Cressy, I mean, they have depth in that position too.
I know.
And I was looking at her stats and I didn't realize how well she did nationally
Yes.
from the blocking and offensive standpoint. And so I think that they're set on the left, they're set on the middle, and that the opposite is going to be the area where they've got to fill some shoes.
Well, and maybe that DS position. All right, it's storylines. I got creative this morning. I was fresh. I was thinking great. So storylines. So I put in the setter position. So we talked to you had talked about this a little bit. Naelis Cabello, All-American freshman setter. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think that Ellie Block has kind of solidified herself just in terms of the veteran. And I've been here before. I've been through these experiences. I asked her earlier, hey, you've played in some really tough matches, even just in your own conference. And so how have you developed from that? And then I think, Cabello is coming in going, I can contribute. And I have also played in tough matches, whether they be high school or club. She's kind of solidified herself as somebody who shows up when the big games matter in the level that she's played so far. And so I could see them running a 6-2. I think that they have the pins to do it. I would not be surprised if they start in a 5-1 with Ellie and go to that 6-2 just to give them a little bit more size and a little bit more firepower out there to score. But I think Cabela's has a chance there.
And I would like to see this. I told you because Cabela's needs revenge after the All-American game, where she only got to play like a couple points.
Yeah.
Ironically, because who was the setter they played the whole time?
Who were they playing?
Charlie.
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's hard to,
Well, yeah, it's an All-American game, though. I mean, do we need to win it?
yes,
And
you
it's-
always need to
But
win.
it's Naelis Cabello. Obviously, she's not horrible.
No, she's not. And that's like the hard part with those. I do not envy the coaches that do the All-American games because you don't get any stats. You're just picking who you think is going to win the game. And then do you play even playing time? I don't know. That's a different show.
Naelis, you go, girl. Because another great personality,
Yeah.
full of energy, and has been pretty darn impressive all summer. And since she's been there, raving reviews from the coaches. And so is that one that you do, if you're going to do it, do you just do it tomorrow? Or
I really think it's kind of an in-game decision. Do we have a great flow going? Is our team feeling comfortable? This match is, I think Dan mentioned it, it's not the end of the world, right? Like you're playing this match. One is a celebration of volleyball, start our season off, but also to figure out who your team is and where your team is. And so if they're kind of riding this high of a 5-1 and they feel like they're getting offensive production, I think the coaches stick with it. They want their teams to feel confident after this game. And there's a lot of big matches coming up in the preseason. So I think they all know that there's going to be opportunities when they have to switch in and out of some of those lineups. So let it ride tomorrow if it's going well.
Yeah. Okay. And then we go back up here, the All-American. This is the only one I think maybe, is there a Robin if she's Batman, right? Is there a number 2, as Kentucky has the Tuzzo to Bevins?
I think there is. I'm not as familiar with them. I know that one of their DSs got playing time last year and filled a role in right back every once in a while. And then you have the freshmen stepping in who could, push. They're not going to push Elena. She's solidified at the libero. But I think there's 2 DSs on that roster. And I think Danny loves to use them as a spark plug in matches. So while she might not necessarily go to the 6-2, or she might not, sub an outside out for an entirety of the time, she'll throw a serving sub in, or she'll put somebody in to receive just to give someone a break. And what I love about everyone that gets that opportunity on this team, at least in the last 4 years, is they always take advantage of it. And you always see them go in and go on point runs or get a big dig, and they're prepared for that moment. So whatever Louisville is doing in their gym to make their bench ready to go, it is working.
Right. And Dan, I think, talked about that, them knowing their role and understanding it. I think they do a lot with talking about this might be exactly what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. They accept it the best they can, and they know it, right? So they're not surprised, and they know going in, this is what I'm doing. I have to be prepared for it, and they understand It's not a surprise when they're thrown in. Okay, so we go on the bottom, and we talk about those seniors and, their leadership. We know how talented they are, mm-hmm. right? Their leadership of getting them and carrying them to win big matches.
I think it's kind of what Ellie talked about. It's a mindset. It's getting over the hump after they've been up 2-0 and not, dropping that third set. And I think all of them are pretty hungry individuals. They're pretty competitive. And I think we'll see a really good game against Wisconsin tomorrow.
And then the last thing, you probably get this. I don't know if anybody else does. Do you get that baseball guy on there? Do you know who
Derek
that is?
Jeter? I can't tell who
No,
that
it's
is.
not Derek Jeter.
I can't see that far.
Okay.
Who is that?
That's Mariano Rivera.
That is Mariano Rivera.
And do you know who he was?
No.
Mariano Rivera was the greatest closer of baseball history.
Oh.
So, do they have a Mariano?
What it takes to close?
Do they have a Mariano Rivera? Do they have it to be closers this year?
I hope so. I think we'll find out tomorrow. I think we'll get a really good glimpse at, and I don't even think it has to do with winning or losing. It's just how you're competing down the stretch. And if any of these teams are taking it to 5 and putting up good numbers, and in that 5th set kind of grinding it out, I think we'll get a really, really good look at if they've made adjustments from last spring and if they're prepared to make the run all fall.
Well, and I think even just how the veterans handle runs by the other teams.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where I've looked at Kentucky, I think, in the past, because I've watched them more, of some of these seniors now where you've seen their nonverbal mm-hmm. when other teams make runs, and it hasn't been positive.
Yeah.
Right. And where I talked about Merritt Beeson, watching her during big moments last year, completely calm.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I mean about the leader of right here. And now celebrating, of course, but never the, hanging your head, frustrated that's important. And I don't know, I would have to go back and watch, but it seems like you could see the, oh crap, sometimes.
With the Louisville team. I agree. And I think it's so hard when you have so much confidence in yourself and your team, and all of a sudden it feels like you got punched in the gut.
Yeah.
And it's how do you overcome that? And I don't know what this team was missing last year to not feel like they could go with that ebb and flow of it and come back out on top. But if I know anything about the staff, and I feel like I know these players from watching them enough, I think they got over it. I think that they're going to be a different group this year. And in some of those moments, we'll see them punch back instead of waiting to get punched again.
Well, and because Pitt, I mean, that was
the game that was sticking out to me when you said that.
They ain't going to back down.
Yes.
I mean, that's a tough person town.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about a chip on your shoulder. They eat chips on your shoulder for breakfast, right? Like they get up preaching that, and they won't give you anything. And so in conference or wherever they meet, they'll have to earn it. And there or wherever you go. And that's a rivalry, right? Which we'll talk about in a second, which is what makes it great. And to get by any of them, you have to overcome it. And it doesn't mean they're bad athletes or bad people or anything. It just means, will you get over it? And I think that's what makes classic college volleyball matches is that punch, counter punch.
Yes.
Are you going to punch back? And right now they probably think they have their number. And
yeah, I think the game has really turned into a game of runs, and it didn't really used to be like that. Like usually when you would get down five or 6 points, it's like, all right, this game is out of control.
Right.
Now it's like, no, I can easily get myself back into the match that way. But I think what happens when you lose a couple times when you're up 2-0 and it goes 5 and you're losing it, it sticks with you.
Sure.
And getting that out of your head that the next time you lose that third set, instead of going, oh man, this is going 5, it's all right, how do I flip that and get back to we're going to win the 4th set.
And it's almost painful to watch sometimes as a fan because people try it different ways, right? Like they'll do the over the top positivity.
Yeah.
Right? Like, come on, we're fine. And you're like, they're thinking about it. Or the people that are totally calm, I'm like, why would I say a word? I'm not thinking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the ones that are totally calm, like, who cares? You hit in the net, just play volleyball.
Move on, next play.
Right. Which is when I see like Anna DeBeer, she's like, I never show emotion anyways. Why would I now?
Why would I now?
Just play. But which one is it going to be? Who's it going to be? And that's what they've had to figure out.
Yeah.
Right. And we'll see who their Mariano Rivera is.
I think it has to be Anna.
Yeah.
I don't think there's another option out there. And simply because of how positions are broken down. Like you could be an amazing middle and you could go, be that spark plug and get a bunch of kills in the middle. But at the end of the day, I love you middles. Don't be offended.
Right.
You're not the one on the court that is really rallying everybody. Yeah.
Right.
All the time.
And I just don't see, I think Anna has been that one they've looked to for all those years.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And she's done it before,
Right.
she's been there and she's been great and she's phenomenal. And maybe last year was just a funk for her. And now she's back to it.
Yeah. And that's what they say. That's what legends are made of, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you remember the time she had to have 86 kills and we beat Pitt in a 6-hour match?
Oh, my arm hurts just thinking about that.
Yeah. But that's when they build statues of you like out there and right, like that'd be cool. That'd be cool. All right. So fan poll for the Cardinals. Do you see any freshmen playing versus Wisconsin?
I'm going to go with a yeah. At some point, I do think they're going to go to a 6-2. So I think we'll see both setters for Louisville tomorrow. I would love to see. We didn't talk about her, but a little bit of Ava Utterback.
Yeah.
She is.
All right, hold on. I'm going to go back to that because we did, and then we'll zip it. But where did
we lost them.
Where did my new faces go? Dang it.
Well, we love you, Ava.
Well, we don't just love Ava. We were just going to talk about that. Ava Utterback. They have another one, Peyton Peterson.
Oh, yes. She is physical. She is skilled. I think Louisville is in good hands for years to come.
And what Dan, well, yeah, she's signed, so he can talk about her. What they talked about was they just are getting, because they didn't even get to talk to before, like the physicality of not even Ava, but like this Peyton Peterson, she tore things up at the All-American game, right? And they have a verbal. This is Chloe Meester kid coming in next year out of Iowa. And she makes half the girls on this team look like
she's physical.
Yeah. And they didn't have a chance with these guys. And so that's when you talk about programs making jumps.
Yeah.
That's where they made a jump, and they're coming in more physical than, they made some of their former All-Americans look like, get out of my way.
I know. I could see her moving to opposite because I still think that's a question mark for them. But I think they've done a phenomenal job recruiting to be physical enough to get to the national championship, but having skills. I think that's where the miss is a lot of times is, am I sacrificing physicality for skill, or am I sacrificing skill so I can be physical? And I think the classes that they've put together all make sense. I don't know if there's a better way for me to say it, but like there's a fit and a piece to every puzzle, and they're going to be good.
What I've heard through the grapevine is they do an excellent job of evaluating talent. They, in years past, because they had to, they couldn't miss on multiple kids, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Right. Like they knew what was in their lane. This is what we can get, and we have to get it, and they did. And then for the most part, they worked out.
Yeah.
Right. And it has been, by like this senior class is an example. But yeah, they have girls again now that are waiting, redshirt, whatever they might do, that before would have been playing immediately, has told you how their athleticism has played. But yeah, Ava and Peterson both are extremely talented, along with a couple of the DSs that we talked about, that now you're getting that competition. Dan talked about that, the greatest competition in the gym that we've ever had. And I think that just goes up as the prestige of your program goes up, right? All right. So with that, move on. Okay. A couple other questions. Is there pressure? And I think we would agree yes on this one, but is there pressure on the team to get to the Final Four because it's in Louisville?
Just about Kentucky or about Louisville?
Oh, my bad. Sorry, guys. I didn't copy and paste. I promise. Yes, Louisville. These are Louisville's mailbag.
All right.
Louisville's mailbag.
I think there is, but I think there always is when you're the host city and you're a top 10 team. Like everybody's kind of got eyes on you, and I think everyone's rooting for you to get there, because we want the host city to have the team just for, fans and viewership.
Yeah. And I think anytime, as long as DBK is here and Nebraska is going to be in the running, there's going to be pressure for them both to meet up.
Yeah.
Just because of viewership and storylines, and ESPN's like, oh, these stories write themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so that's going to be there. But I think more so for the senior class, Louisville has a great team, and it's just good for ratings. I want them because I really like the team. So, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the team? I think we've touched on it. But
I think the strengths are their defense. They have really physical middles, and they have two outsides that know how to put the ball away. I think the biggest weakness for them is going to be on the opposite. They lost Aiko Jones, who graduated from last year, and she was a huge point producer for them. And so it's how to fill that gap.
All right. And then who does this mean more for? I know they'll all say it's just a game.
This is such a rude question. Wisconsin's going to make it about them, but it's more important for Louisville, Wisconsin fans. But that's just because Wisconsin fans are very passionate about their volleyball.
I know. I will say this. I will say, as we went through the recruiting, I was impressed with both of these fan bases stepping up. The Louisville ones were a little more polite. I will say that they were, but Badger fans did a nice job. There was only one, that was really a stinker. But
I think that if Wisconsin loses, the Wisconsin fans are going to be more worried than if Louisville loses.
yeah,
Like the Louisville fans will be like, okay, here's what we can work on. Where the Wisconsin fans might be like, oh no, the season's over.
but I get like maybe the like little brother syndrome for Wisconsin, because somebody told me the record in the last, is it like
They
10
shouldn't
years?
feel like the little brother because they've been to more Final Fours
I know.
in 5 years than I think maybe one other team has gone more than them, and they have the highest winning percentage except for 2 other teams.
But I
in the
mean,
country.
and their record versus Nebraska
is better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, but again, it's who everybody talks about.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, are they trying? That was one thing I wanted to talk about. Like, do they feel like they have to prove because people do?
I don't know. I mean, again, we kind of talked about how Nebraska has been not just historically the program, but they also are a trendsetter in some things. And so like the record, like, oh, we're going to beat your record. No, we're going to beat your record. I think it's become, at least publicly, a very healthy rivalry where they are continuously, I mean, competition makes better competition, right? Like they're always pushing themselves. But I feel like as a fan, if I were a Wisconsin fan, I would be so proud of what our volleyball team has done. And I almost want to like have the fans need to give them a little bit more love and
support.
Yeah.
Well, that's my thing is show, but don't they sell out all the time?
They do.
Is it like how they travel or
yeah,
what?
no, I think they're traveling great. Mostly
Okay.
what I'm talking about is like negativity online or like Twitter or things people, I guess it's X now, not Twitter. I should stop saying that. I'm aging myself. But I think like publicly and what people talk about, because let's be honest, if we're going to keep bringing eyes to the sport, there's going to be a lot of criticism. And I think everybody from the coaches to the players to the schools are going to have to be prepared for when there starts to be a little bit of villainization of schools and teams and programs. Because that's what happens, right?
Yeah, if you
But
want all the money
Yeah.
that will come with this, there's going to be the problems that other sports have.
Yes, and there's going to be some athletes that, whether they like it or not, are going to be turned into a villain. Unfortunately, you know, we're seeing it in women's basketball a lot. And so I just ask that fans stay really supportive and positive when a lot of those things happen. Wins, losses, whatever. Be supportive and remember how much work that these young women are putting in.
Sure, absolutely. But they, I was like, I thought the games that I've watched, they always.
They get great crowds. I think they're traveling better than they ever have before. I mean, I think we'll see. It's going to be really funny. There's going to be one section of blue tomorrow because we have all red teams.
Well, and that would be if we're getting into that, that would be my comment for these programs, right? Like the NCAA, if you want to don't want to talk about Nebraska all the time, start traveling better fan bases, right? Like everybody talks about, well, you guys only talk about Nebraska. Yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And you want it to be like when I hear the NCAA and where they have the Final Four, like I believe they, pray about every year that Nebraska makes the Final Four. Why?
Because they'll travel. Yeah.
Because they want
and the ticket sales
they want to put people in the seats because it doesn't look good on ABC if there's like a third full stadium,
Mhm.
correct? I mean, like, again, you didn't bring me here to break down X's and O's of volleyball. It's to talk as a sports fan.
Yeah.
And that's, so when they are on pins and needles to have Nebraska advance, they don't want, this school versus this school because their fans don't travel. And so what Jamie was saying earlier, we're getting there. I'm like, I don't know if we're to the point where, this school versus this school. Again, if I say the schools, then I get in trouble. But is it true? I mean, any Big Ten school other than 2. If
Travel well.
Well, I mean, if we take out any Big Ten school other than maybe 2, and then they play any SEC school other than maybe 1 for the championship, is that place sold out?
No,
No,
I don't think it is.
right? And did I get in trouble for saying
I
that?
do
But
think we're getting closer. I thought that Tampa was, I know Nebraska was in it, but the city engagement around Tampa and how many local people were like out participating in the events outside of the arena was really, really great for the sport. And that is something that I haven't seen from a lot of the other Final Fours. Warm weather helps, being able to host it like an event. But I think that we're slowly getting there, but yeah, it's still great for the sport if the Texases, Nebraska, Wisconsin of the world are participating in those.
right. And maybe it's like that in every sport. I don't know. Maybe Alabama versus Georgia sells out the
It's not.
football.
We talk about this at the professional level all the time, is how do you get the average fan to not already be a volleyball fan?
Right.
There's non-basketball people that go to that are just basketball fans. They didn't have to play the sport, and that's what we need. We need to convert more average fans to volleyball.
Right. All right, and let's end on this. Speaking of some of these things, so the best rivalries in college volleyball, we'll put this on as a poll as well, and some of those rivalries that do get people's blood boiling. And I think we need more great rivalries, and people will hopefully, message in and say, hey, you missed this one, you missed this one. I think Louisville, Kentucky myself is a pretty decent rivalry that I went to last year, but these are 4 that we talked about. And I know it's on a national one. I know it's not a yearly one, but I think we saw from the fallout last year after the national title. I would go with Texas, Nebraska as number 1.
I think that one's been brewing for a while.
Yeah. And
there's been a lot of drama between the teams, a lot of
and the coaches.
transfers, coaches. Certainly, there is a level of respect that those 2 programs have for each other, but man, do they want to beat each other.
Oh, you're just playing the politically correct card.
I think they want to beat each other really bad.
No, I think, but there's a level of respect. I think
you can have respect for what a program is doing and still not like it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to dinner anytime soon.
They are not.
That's
and
okay.
That's a rivalry.
That's a rivalry. And that's good, right? But now, did you notice the creativity? I didn't put the verses in there. I put hearts.
There is no love lost between any of those teams.
Right. Now, and that goes back to the big 8 days, the big 12 days, where they did play each other all the time, and it was everything. You just don't like each other in everything. And then I think Nebraska, Wisconsin is...
Again, all of these are a little like recent developments to me. Because if you would have asked me this, 10 years ago, I probably would have had Penn State in there somewhere, but as of late, I think you mentioned it earlier, Wisconsin is kind of owning Nebraska in the win column, and it's really turning into a great interconference rivalry that the crowds just go crazy at those. The viewership is great when they're playing. So I think more than just their schools are invested in it, and that's when you get a real rivalry is when, outsiders start watching. I wanted so bad for it to equal. I wanted Nebraska, Wisconsin in the semifinals last year. That was the matchup that I wanted. I would have been pumped for that. Yeah. And then I'll tell you what, right now, I think Pitt Louisville is as intense right now as any one in the country. I agree. I feel like you could just cut the tension.
Oh yeah,
But I think it also goes to they get compared a lot.
Sure.
Their recruiting style gets compared. Their culture gets compared. Their they're in the ACC together. So there's always these comparisons happening between those two teams. And I'm sure both of them want to be like, I'm not the same. We're not the same, we're better or whatever it is. But they're fun games to watch.
Well, and they do things differently, like
Yes.
you just said, right?
Mhm.
But like, I feel, and I think it's completely okay. And I may be 120% wrong, but I feel like Fish is like, please just keep not talking about us. Please just keep kind of leaving us out of the conversation. We'll take that chip any day of the week. Like, leave us out. Don't mention us. I wish you wouldn't even have put us up there, right? Like,
Yeah.
right? Like, don't talk about us.
No.
How dare you put us in the top 3 recruiting classes of 2026? Like, we don't like that.
Yeah.
Why would you ever give us the highest preseason ranking in school history? I don't like that. You should have put us at like 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. I think you're spot on. He loves to be the underdog. He loves to prove people wrong.
disrespected.
He loves
Like,
to use it with his team too. Of
see,
like, we're gonna,
nobody
yeah.
likes us.
Yep.
Like, just,
You crabby Dan, you.
well, and like Helen, like we're in Pittsburgh and it's like this dirty
Yes,
city
yeah.
and tough guy town and we're not pretty at anything. You know what I mean? And they do. They just, I don't know if they did in a press conference, but they're like, y'all want to keep putting on this volleyball party and nobody wants to talk about us if we just keep showing up.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we just keep showing up to this Final Four thing. And I get it. Yeah, they haven't won a semifinal, but you get there is not
Get
easy, is
there.
it? Is
No,
it, Amy? As a
it's
coach?
not. It's what Dan Fisher and that staff has done
Yeah.
at Pitt has got to be one of the most impressive coaching jobs I've ever seen. I thought it was a one-hit wonder. I thought it was, you know what, you guys got there, good job, kudos to you. And then he just keeps doing it. And he keeps getting these kids to buy in.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. And I've been to Pittsburgh. It's not my favorite.
Now, you know what is cool, though? They never win any games, but you go to a baseball game and you go to the top row of that stadium and then you overlook the 3 rivers. Like, that's pretty cool. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Pitt, but like there's a really, really, really good recruit last year, and they didn't get her. But when she started her recruitment, they weren't in the top like 1,000, I don't think. And then everything started, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Yeah." Pitt reached out to me. I'm like, "Okay, who's your top whatever?" And then they're in like the top 30, and then she whittled it down and she's like, "Yeah, here's my top 10. I'm like, "Pitt?" And then she did visits. And then she was going to take a visit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Why do you keep Pitt in there?"
Mhm.
She's like, "I'm just really interested."
Yeah.
And then they ended up being number 2 for her. And she just was intrigued. And where she ended up going was number 1 all along. But the fact that they just kept climbing.
Yeah.
And there was something intriguing, and she was like, they were so honest and so straightforward, which is what they are. And then here's how you, like this year, and how little, I don't know if it's respect or what, but they did so well this year, and everybody was like, how can you rank them 2 or 3? Well, because of look at their class. And then when they land or get a verbal from, Ayanna Watson, everybody's like, she can't go to a school like Pitt. They must be cheating, right? Like, if it goes anywhere else, well, hey, maybe they just earned it.
Yeah.
And maybe like y'all should start paying attention to what they're doing because they just beat y'all. Like,
Yeah.
they just beat y'all, right? Like, maybe they're doing something right there. And those are programs I respect. Them in Louisville.
What I was going to say, going back to their rivalry, it's so similar.
Yes.
Like Danny and
Yes.
Fish kind of got there around the same time.
Yes.
They both made their programs relevant. And I think that's why recruits really lean towards these 2 places in particular, is because you have 2 coaches that have made volleyball important at their schools. And it's important, like, to be a volleyball player there is special. And good luck playing each other again, guys.
And you want to be called a great recruiter, go somewhere that doesn't have everything,
Yeah.
where volleyball isn't important, and go to a couple Final Fours. And then I think
Yeah.
call somebody a great recruiter,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just different
Yeah.
when you don't have everything. It's not disrespectful, but just go somewhere and build something.
Mhm.
Not 50 years ago, right? And build it up and have every resource under the sun. Am I wrong in that? Like it's
No,
different.
I think it's different. And I think, again, just talking about these two programs in particular is they proved you could do it with less, and now they're getting more, which is really cool and rewarding to see for them as coaches, because they worked their tails off to get to where they are, and now they're getting bigger recruiting budgets. There are NIL collectives being created for them, and that's not a knock or anything bad. They are changing with the times, and they've done it their way, and they've proved that you can do it without being the biggest budget out there.
Yeah, we didn't even bring up that whole thing at all today, but those three, I don't know, I guess where Florida sits, but those three of those four teams on the bottom row have much different NILs to talk about than,
Yes.
than the ones up
The
above.
top row is
Yeah,
very
it's
different,
different.
than the bottom row.
Yeah, in fact, they're doing it is great, and maybe that's why they have those battles. But you talked about Florida and Kentucky, I guess, before we go, because you said back before my really following days, that Florida kind of dominated the SEC for a long time.
Yeah, Mary has been in the hunt for a national championship her entire career, and she's been so close so many times. And I think when Skinner got to Kentucky, he really changed the program, similar to how we're talking about Danny and Fish a little bit, but he's made such a difference there. And those have become, it'll change with Texas in there now,
Yeah,
but
it will.
the Kentucky-Florida match has become one of the most meaningful matches in the SEC and in volleyball to get that automatic bid. They're going to go to the tournament no matter what,
Right.
but it's really become a great rivalry, which dating back years, fans have always gone to those games because they've been so, spectacular, and the volleyball has been so phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Kentucky has won 7 consecutive SEC tournaments.
There might have been some co-champions in there somewhere.
Last year, everybody won.
Oh yeah.
And everybody got Coach of the Year. So it was.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's really funny because I wasn't even referring to that. I think them and Florida have split a couple times, and because they don't have an SEC tournament, they're the co-champions.
You're going. That's what we got to do next. I don't think we're going to, but
I did forget one, which I'll get yelled at if I don't talk about it.
Talk about it.
USC UCLA.
Come on. My own thing, like I get it, but do people go? Do they get any attendance on the West Coast?
Those matches are huge. So, and I didn't know this before. I thought it was just like, okay, whatever, you're a West Coast rival, you're a rival in every other sport but volleyball. But the last few years, the USC and UCLA games have gotten about 6,000 people, 6,000 to 7,000 people at them.
Well,
and every year it kind of gets a little bit bigger. And it's outside of California. Sure, that rivalry doesn't really mean that much probably on the national scale. But in LA, those were some of the most fun matches I've ever coached in because the crowds are just so into it, and you don't want to lose to the team.
Yeah. Well, and I get, the problem is they're on so late.
Yeah.
Now
that we don't have Pac-12 network, I think a lot more people will be able to watch those games, and they'll get some really great new fans.
And social media, I do like. Well, I know Brad a lot from the tour. I think he's the perfect hire at USC. Like, walk out and they might be surfing right now. Who knows? But I've enjoyed them. I like what the UCLA staff is doing. I think that's a great fit for those guys. I'm excited to see what they're doing. I like the Oregon staff. We've talked about that. I'm excited to see that integration without doing a college volleyball preview here, I guess. But I'm excited to see those crossover there. And I just don't see a lot of social media during the season from those schools.
From the West Coast
Yeah,
schools?
yeah. To be honest, and as I look at some of these, that's why I always get in trouble with Kentucky. I just wish Kentucky's social media was like it is for men's basketball. I think they've earned it. I just wish it was. But they, and that's where you talked about Texas and their social media being so amazing, and how it's helped that program. But those are steps. I think that hopefully volleyball continues to make those steps to build programs like they do for their men's sports. And I'm sure there's money involved and all those things that I don't get, but I just believe that, that's why we're here today, because college game day goes to men's sports, right? And volleyball
This is
should have.
college game day.
That's right. High power. But we will, on that, we're going to end and we're going to pack up and we're going to go to our spot somewhere up in the corridors upstairs. And I know we had said 4:00, but I didn't realize the matches start at 7. So we will send out on our socials what time we will go. We're thinking maybe 5 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, and we'll have about an hour, 90 minutes of breakdown. So we'll break down the matches tomorrow, and we'll see what fans are roaming the corridors. And we know we have some prospects that are going to stop by tomorrow. We'll break down the matches before we head down to our seats and enjoy the games, the matches just like you. And go ahead, vote on all our polls on social. We just thank those of you that tuned in. We thank the athlete, and we thank the coaches that tuned in, and we thank the AVCA for getting us a spot and letting us do this. And hopefully you guys liked it, and we can do more of this in the future. So for Amy, for myself, and for all of our guests, we thank you, and have a great day, everybody.